This video will cover the pectoral girdle. The pectoral girdle is responsible for attaching the upper extremities to the axial skeleton. It includes the scapula and the clavicle. So we'll start by looking at these bones individually. So here we have the scapula. Here's the medial border of the scapula. Here's the lateral border of the scapula. And we're looking at it from a posterior view because we can see the spine of the scapula. So often what we see is what we think is our shoulder blade sticking out from the back. That's going to be the spine of the scapula actually sticking out. Now if you follow the spine of the scapula superior and lateral, you find your acromion process. So your acromion process is this one. And you could see, if I turn it to the side here, you could see here's the spine of the scapula, and the acromion process folds anterior. So it kind of curves to the anterior side where it will attach to the clavicle. So if we have the anterior viewpoint, you can see here's your lateral border, and again your medial border. So this will be your left scapula, because you can see the lateral border is here, the medial border is here, and so you know that this would be your left arm coming from this scapula. So here we have another process. This is called the coracoid process. So we have the acromion process that's coming off of the spine of the scapula, which we can see posteriorly, and we have the coracoid process that you can see anteriorly. Both processes will provide a site for muscle attachment, and then the acromion process, that's going to articulate with the lateral side of the clavicle. And that joint is called the acromioclavicular joint. So then if we look at the side here of the scapula, we have a little cavity, and that cavity is called the glenoid fossa. So the glenoid fossa is where the head of the humerus will articulate with the scapula. So if I take a humerus here, here's the head, it will go into the fossa like that. So then we have our clavicle. So here we have our clavicle. Now this is also going to be our left clavicle. And how you're going to be able to determine between left and right and medial and lateral is that for your clavicle, the medial side is going to be very thick. So you can see how thick that is there. Whereas the lateral side is going to be very thin compared to the medial. The clavicle has a nice S shape to it, and so when we turn it, it'll be in the body like this. And so the medial side, that's going to articulate with the manubrium of the sternum, and then the lateral side, which is the flat side, articulates with the acromion process of the scapula. So if we look at all these structures together in the pectoral girdle, so here's a nice view of that. We see here's our humerus, and the head of the humerus is going inside that glenoid fossa of the scapula. Then we see the medial border of the scapula, that makes this the right arm. And we see here's our clavicle, so the lateral border of the clavicle, which is skinny or thin, that's going to articulate with the acromion process of the scapula. The medial border of the clavicle, that will articulate with the manubrium of the sternum. So now if we turn it posteriorly, we can see the spine of the scapula here. If we follow it to the front, we find the acromion process there. And that is it. That's all you need to know for the pectoral girdle.